United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
The Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog. Alliance? If you put an S in front of Alliance, you have Salience. That's me.
Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
You are currently tuned into and listening to the Alliance Guys podcast presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your premier source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal. That's DKM. Down there is Jaden. We are the Alliance, guys. We are the Alliance. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
I heard Sal was a needle mover.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the needle went down. Although it looks like everyone is back now watching that was previous, so that's good.
Why don't you edit them all together to make one long montage? I mean, the ones I gave you and all the other ones, and some ones you've had that are no longer as valid. You could edit them out to so make some use out of them.
What I would like to do, and it's really just comes down to time, but what I would like to do is just be able to push one button, and for every episode, it would do it all, so you would hear all those while the show's starting, and time. What's stopping me? Time. I don't have enough. If I had another 12 hours a week, it probably wouldn't be enough. So says the man who's muted.
He isn't talking anyway. It's actually the best he sounded all since we've been doing the podcast. Sorry, DK. You just left yourself open for that one.
I do want to say what's up to our pal Noob and Luthez who are in the chat. Get in early and often. We go to the chat. We talk to you, the hashtag NWA fam. We talk about all things NWA. Also, I want to give a special shout out to our pal Will. Will, formerly of This Is Pro Wrestling. Haven't seen Will around on the NWA videos anymore, but very much still a friend of the Alliance. And I want to wish Will a very happy 29th birthday. And hope you're doing well, Will. You're probably not watching this, but if it gets back to you, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
It'd be Will Martin for those of you keeping score at home. So, what a fun little week we had.
Have we?
Well, I mean, what else can you call it, right? It is what it is. We're not going to go too much into that discussion about what happened on Tuesday, except for wrestling, and we'll just leave it at that,
Like the pre-party. Womp, womp, womp.
Somebody reached out to me. They're like, hey, why don't you have Fiona come back and do the pre-party with you? And I was like, yes, that's a great idea. I sure will.
Fee-fi-fum. That idea doesn't sound dumb.
Did you see this graphic, Jaden? Because I think it's pretty cool, but did you see this one? Boom, there's your champions around the territory. Now I feel like they're missing a few of them, but what a pretty talented group of individuals.
I really hope Juventud Guerrera takes on Kid Cash for that Crossroads Championship.
I just saw the a video of Kid Cash talking about that match with Juventud Guerrera. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's what brought it up.
Oh my god, he's like, he didn't want to drop the title. I dropped that beep on his head.
Speaking of, by the way, titles, I heard a friend of the show got an NWA Championship match. Any confirmation in that? A couple weeks ago.
Show got a title match.
Yeah, I heard DW took on Latimer for the NWA title.
Yeah, obviously, the champion still is Tom Latimer, but Damian Wayne, former NWA national champion, former NWA tag team champion, and I also believe he held the North American title. And before most of that, he held the NWA Dog Championship. He finally got an opportunity to wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold. I feel like the NWA severely discredited Damian Wayne by not giving him a greater opportunity to challenge for that title after Tokyo Monster Cahagas won that. And that was 9 years ago recently.
Yeah, and I think he did actually challenge for the championship. I think he just never got to win it. I know he also took on Kojima, I believe, too.
Yeah, he did take on Kojima.
And I'm very sure he took on Cahagas in Texas.
Yeah. I'm just saying I felt like he deserved more opportunities. I mean, at that point in time after I'll say it, after Adam Pearce left the National Wrestling Alliance, I don't think there was another person who represented the NWA as much or better than Damian Wayne. And I feel like it was a shame that he never got his just due. And that's saying something because he did hold most of the major titles in the company. But I feel like a run with the 10 pounds of gold would have been deserving.
I heard he would have won, but there was some controversy.
And there was something, all right.
Yeah, and the match against Latimer, there was some controversy.
Oh, there was.
DW, he just doesn't have any luck with controversy.
What? Stop saying it like that.
Saying like what? Controversy?
Yeah, DK, I think you're still muted. I know you unmuted the mic, but we can't hear you.
What about now?
Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The mic was manually muted, which I did not know. Anyway, he was supposed to win it on like 3 different occasions, and something.
Well, he was slated to get a title victory over Adam Pearce before the conclusion of the 7 Levels of Hate, and that didn't happen because the promoter at the last minute backed out.
Well, he backed out because the booker was spending a lot of money and not getting the sponsorships that he claimed he was going to get.
That match was supposed to happen for the Dog Championship too, and the promoter backed out. Pearson and D-Dubs.
That would have been a fun match. And, it's not like they didn't have matches. Like those guys squared off against each other quite a bit, actually. And I always look back at that time so fondly because as someone who knew Adam Pearce fairly well, he was always working. And what I mean by that is like, he'd go down and wrestle against Stro and would really make it feel like there's a chance that he was going to lose that belt. If he went and wrestled Damian Wayne, he's like, yeah, I think they might take the belt off of me. Like, it was always a work for him. And whether you like the guy or not, you can't discredit what he did as NWA World Champion. You can't discredit what he did for the National Wrestling Alliance. And for that, you owe him a bit of credit.
The only person who doesn't like him right now might be Randy Orton.
Yeah.
By the way, Jay, I don't know if I told you.
Randy like?
Cody.
Cowboy Bob.
Cowboy Bob.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure about that.
But I'm drinking some Big Energy Tears from W right now, Jay.
Oh, Big Energy Tears. Yes, yes.
I'm drinking chocolate.
Hot chocolate or cold chocolate?
How is your jitterless energy treating you?
It tastes very good. I like it. It's going to be in my rotation now between that and the
Beach and Peach.
Beach and Peach. It's funny because after I ordered it and after it's sent, I got a thing on my email for buy one get one free for an offer. And it seems like every time I order from them, they give me an offer right afterwards. I think they're trying to steal all your sales. They're trying to get their own.
100%.
Well, that's not very nice.
No, but that's what big corporate does. Want to shout out Retro. He's in the chat. Of course, Luthez is here. Noob is in the house, and Willie Bowen with his Tyrus joke of the week. When there's a flood, it's Tyrus's toilet overflowing. And that's been Willie Bowen's joke of the week.
I'm grossed out.
What's that?
I'm grossed out.
You're drinking hot chocolate. That ain't hot chocolate.
So, I hear there's a new territory added to the NWA officially.
No, dog never got an offer. No, just kidding.
Unlike the unofficial one, well, it was added a couple of months ago, but still isn't added.
Yeah, it's interesting because normally the territories are officially added when Billy Corgan comes to town to make the announcement. Texas-sized wrestling, Texas Stars of Wrestling, whatever it is, TSW.
Style. What's so hard with the word style?
What is
he doesn't have any, so he doesn't know the word.
Excuse me, sir.
What were you asking, Jen?
I wasn't asking anything. I was saying more that Texas style wrestling, stupidest name on the planet. Texas style wrestling.
If you can't remember it, doesn't mean it's stupid.
Hey, Texas sized wrestling, it would mean something because everything's supposed to be bigger in Texas. What's Texas style?
It's a very unique form of wrestling.
Yeah, I was going to say it is a legitimate style of wrestling. It's harder, snugger.
Can't say that on the radio, my friend.
It's a new day. We can start saying new words again, apparently. That's what I saw all over Twitter.
Oh, my God.
I saw a lot of new words on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, X. Home of the NWA at one time.
A lot of people were wishing they were in X, but anyway. I digress.
All right. Well,
is that where the show was? Was Power on X this week?
Yeah, and that's where it's apparently it's going to stay, at least for the interim. And look. Let's get back to one thing at a time. I don't want to get too carried away here. Yes, Texas style wrestling was said to be the next territory, and although that they've made a lot of overtures at the great state of Texas, nothing has actually been come to fruition. Now, we've heard James Beard talk about it on podcasts. We've seen some signage, but there's been no formal announcement yet from the National Wrestling Alliance with regards to TSW. However, they will be heading back to Forney, Texas in January, and I will not be going to Forney, Texas.
I probably won't be going either.
For Shockwave. But they will be back at the OC Theater in Forney, Texas. That was the home of the Crockett Cup 2024. That's also the home of Texas style wrestling prior to the NWA coming to town. So, all signs point to that being the next territory. But as of Saturday, it was formally announced that World League Wrestling is now an official NWA territory. And before we get too much into it, God, I love that logo. The crown on the G is so playa. It's awesome. I love it. What do you guys think of the logo?
I like the color too, because that was King Harley's colors, in case you forget.
I like it.
Oh.
No, I mean, I do. I like the logo. I thought that was whoever came up with it did a good job.
And I mean, it's just.
I don't know that this is anything more than the NWA added to their old one, but the basis of the logo was good, and they added the NWA in a good place and everything. So
I think the crown like seals the deal for me. And what it essentially means is that the NWA is back in St. Louis, not for the chase, but just as part of now another territory, which adds to the list of. Well, we go, I guess, in reverse. You got St. Louis now with WLW, Seaverville, Tennessee with Crossfire. You got NWA Chicago, Joe Kazana Promotions in the eastern part of Tennessee, and then in Cleveland, Ohio, you have Exodus Pro. Those are your 5 official territories of the NWA. You know, that crown should have had maybe 5 points to it.
No, because there's possibly more, so they don't want to have to change it. I have to say that it has a very handsome logo.
It is very handsome, but they would have been the 5th territory of record, so having 5 points would have been significant.
Well, oddly, it had 7 and needed 1 more to have 8 for Harley Race's world title reigns, even though he kind of really only had 7.
Maybe that's what it is.
Don't get me started on the 8th.
Jeremy says I wouldn't fly that logo in certain neighborhoods. Just saying. What's the problem with that logo, Jeremy? Educate somebody who's ignorant. What's wrong with the logo? Is it the blue? I mean, I don't have a problem with that logo. I don't see anything wrong with it.
And if you're a Los Angeles Kings fan, I'm sure you'll love it.
5 points is Latin Kings.
Oh. The crown is very Bud Select. I don't know. I think it's classy, man. I like it. I think it works. It pays homage to Harley Race. It pays homage to the promotion that he, along with Gordon Soley and Dave Marquez, created some 20 years ago.
Legion. World Legion.
Well, yeah, but World Legion Wrestling was the precursor to World League Wrestling. I mean,
no, I'm just pointing out that I actually like League better than Legion.
Yeah, well, the name is World League Wrestling.
Yes, and I prefer that name.
Okay, yeah. You know, and it's funny because we lost DK. We had Dave Marquez on the show during the pandemic, and he spoke at length about the formation of World League Wrestling. Again, he had come out to St. Louis and essentially lied about his abilities in producing television, and got into a gig where he was able to help produce sports programming, and they brought wrestling onto the local NBC station. And after the show got canceled, all of the content was just delivered to Marquez, who took ownership of the brand of the program, and then along with Gordon Soley and Harley Race, they started producing World Legion Wrestling, and that was around 93, 94, and then over time that evolved to World League Wrestling. At some point, Dave Marquez sold his interest in the company back to Harley Race, and came back to Southern California. And Harley took it from there. And again, you know, over time, World League Wrestling has had partnerships with Pro Wrestling Noah. That's how we saw a lot of Harley's kids end up in Pro Wrestling Noah. One of the last examples of that was TMDK, who was an Australian tag team kind of brought together by David Marquez, sent to Harley Race and WLW before being packaged up and shipped off to Pro Wrestling Noah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, again, you know, it's under Leland Race's guidance and leadership. I feel like I've been told from the people who go to those events that Trevor Murdoch is always in attendance, is usually has some sort of role with the company. I don't know if it's a leadership role. I don't know if he's on the payroll. I don't know if he's part ownership or if he's just somebody who is concerned about the legacy of Harley Race. But, that they have a solid tie to the National Wrestling Alliance. And again, I feel like this strengthens the territory system for the NWA. You now have another spot where your titles, your champions will be recognized and treated properly when they come to the territory. And another thing is, it's a
That's
great
a
way
good
to
segue.
Let's say that again.
So that's a good segue, but finish your thought.
Yeah, and I think it's a good place to also find new faces for the main roster, the power roster, as it were. What are we segueing to, DK?
Well, on one of the Discord servers I'm on, and don't ask me which one, I think it's the United Wrestling Network one.
Okay.
Alliance Gold, our friend Tim, asks the following question. Has the inclusion of territories improved the NWA product? And has interest risen? And Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Fan News.
That's our friend Lamb, but go ahead.
Lamb says, I wonder if the territory system gave the main product a boost or not. And I just thought that's a interesting topic to talk about. I certainly have my opinions, but I thought I wanted to hear Jay's first.
What was the question?
Well, if you pay attention,
You broke up when you said it, so I didn't hear it.
has the inclusion of the territories improved the NWA product and has interest risen? I wonder if the territory system gave the main product a boost or not.
Grassroots definitely gave it a boost. The interest of those companies now associating with the NWA, maybe not. I mean, I care more about Joe Kazana Promotions than the NWA right now, and so I kind of still watch them every once in a while. I haven't really watched anything Worldly Wrestling in a long time. I know it's obviously the number one promotion to our friend Big Chris Dog, but I don't know. Here's the thing. What I would have thought the NWA would do is, now that they're working with these territories, it's wise to tour with these territories in a big event. Have one big event in St. Louis, one big event in Ohio, one big event in one part of Tennessee, one big event in another part of Tennessee, one big event which is happening in Forney, Texas, one big event in wherever the other promotion is. So yeah, just tour around and each have these different promotions and have feature more of the local talent on TV at that particular time. That way, they rotate talent. There's always fresh people being shown. You have the territorial and the promotional champions to defend, and you still have the big stars of the NWA. So it gives a constant fresh product and a fresh look. The one problem about television wrestling and studio wrestling is it doesn't really change. Well, it does for the NWA, but it shouldn't really change. You should have the same look over and over and over again. And I like the idea of going to different places and showing these talents and showing the growth of the NWA. And every time they come back, every 5 tapings they come back to a territory, you get to see who's grown, who's the new talent, who's developed, who looks better. If PB Smooth's head's even larger, you get to see all this going around. And I think that's something that the idea of the territory show they did, where they had the different territories all working together, smaller and mixed in more with the NWA, as my idea. Any thoughts?
No, I think that's a great idea. I think there was a perfectly good vehicle that they had for that it wouldn't take a whole lot to get back going again. Because I don't think that's a great idea for Power. If it were up to me, Power would be strictly in the studio, only studio. Now that they're not on a network anymore, they could do pay-per-views that you could literally order through YouTube and make them, only available to a paying audience on YouTube, or, however they want to do it. That's fine. But I don't think pay-per-view should be TV tapings. And with the idea of going to different territories and recording that content, I think that's a hell of an idea. There's your NWA USA right there. And it could be the whole point of that would be that it's not power, and that you would have two very different programs, two very different, almost rosters, right? Like, sure, your world champion would be on that show. Maybe all the world champions would be on that show, but not your TV champions, and maybe not necessarily your national. Well, maybe your national champion. I don't know. It just depends. But like, I feel like that would give you a very distinct second piece of content, separate vehicle that I think would be very, very interesting to watch. Maybe even more interesting than Power, because you would get these fresh faces. It would be very much like a hybrid between like a developmental program plus like, some of the already affixed stars of the NWA, some of your heavy hitters mixing with, new faces. I think that'd be a hell of an idea.
I wasn't suggesting to do pay-per-views. I was actually suggesting to do TV tapings at them, like actual TV tapings.
Sure.
But another thing they can do is take away from that old Pro Wrestling This Week format and literally just have everybody record matches, and those matches end up one match from each territory, or maybe three matches, from three territories and three matches from the next three territories, and just rotate around and use that to also showcase the NWA on YouTube. Really, as long as they're recording the content, it really wouldn't be much different other than a good editor. Maybe use the studio that they're using to record Power, or have little segments in between. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I want to hear DK's thoughts. I mean, we both have said two different things. I'm curious as to what his thoughts are.
Well, looking at the questions I asked, has the inclusion of territories improved the NWA product? And my basic answer to that one is, if you're talking about the main NWA product that Billy Corgan controls, no. Because he's still booking. This booking sucks.
Wait, real quick. I do want to just say one thing, and then I'll let you get moved on. But in terms of improving the overall program, no. But we are seeing more stars from the NWA's larger product, right? Like, we just saw Big Mama win the NWA Women's Television Championship recently. We're seeing guys like the other Drake, not Carson Drake, but I think
Eli Drake.
No, not that Drake. I think Houston Drake, maybe from Crossfire, the junior heavyweight. I know that he was at the Tampa tapings. We saw a lot more of the.
Not the one that made me cry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying we're seeing more talent kind of get plucked from.
So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, the next part of that was, has interest risen? And
yes, and it's really high right now, and the interest rates are sucking, and it's really killing the economy. Sorry, had to do it, DK.
Before I was so rudely interrupted a second time, I think the thing is, yes, interest has risen because of some of the reasons that Jay was talking about and didn't let me get to before he so rudely interrupted. This is all fun, so all those people out there. So yeah, I mean, I think there's been some interest in the product that's risen because there's been talent out there that we've been able to get, and that's been interesting. I mean, in a way, even Tiffany Neves, who wrestles regularly for the main product, but she kind of started in the territory before I think it was a territory, official territory. And so I would say yes. I would also say, which also goes to if the territory system gives the main product a boost or not. I think yes, because it gives us an opportunity to see more talent, and then lets us as fans kind of decide which talent we like and which talent makes us sad. And I would say interest has definitely probably risen for the territories themselves, because like I knew about World League Wrestling but I haven't followed World League Wrestling since it was World Legion Wrestling. And I had no idea about Joe Costanza Promotions until, the NWA started working with Joe Costanza to put on some of their shows. And the Country Gentleman first incarnation came in. And so I would say that, back in the day when territories were normal, I always said, I'm interested in NWA territory, not necessarily interested in a non-NWA territory. When territories left the NWA, I normally stop following them because you can't keep up with every wrestling promotion on the planet, nor would I want to. Dog's the only one that I've kept up with, and it's because I enjoy it. And so, I would say that has the product improved? Well, the booking hasn't improved, so we'll leave that at that. But has it given rise to interest? I think yes. I mean, that would be my way of looking at it. That there's more interest just because there's more talent, and more people to look at, and more people to get excited about, or whatever. I'm interested in seeing which I think was recorded and hopefully be on their YouTube or somewhere, but the World League Wrestling title match at their anniversary show where this was announced, where Superstar Steve, terrible name, but defends his title, whatever it is, against his top challenger there. So his name is escaping me. But anyway, yeah, I would say overall it's been better for them than where they were.
I think it's kind of funny, real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off, Jay. I know you were heading on to something.
No, that was just. I think that's what DK was talking about. Superstar Steve versus Camaro Jackson. I just was getting to it.
But I think it's funny. I remember Lagana trashing the territories when the NWA first started, and now how they're doing the territories over again. I was interested to see what his opinion would be of this change, or and other people what they think. But I 1,000,000,000% think that while it may not help the NWA as much, I think this is what the NWA was meant for all along. It wasn't Agatha all along; it was the NWA all along. That the territories are benefiting from the association with the NWA, and I think that's where it never should have been taken away. They just should have just maybe narrowed it down to a few selects.
Well, and I'm not going to speak for Lagana here. I'm not going to speak for the NWA in 2017, right? Because it was a very different time and place, and what was circling around the National Wrestling Alliance at that point was a lot of promotions shouldn't have ever been a part of the NWA. Let's not forget that our old pal Bruce Tharp was very happy to cash those checks that were coming in for the licensing fees to be a licensing member of the NWA. I don't think that there was
up with them.
Yeah, well, I don't think there was a lot of promotions that should have been in the National Wrestling Alliance during the Bruce Tharp era, but I would also argue that there were a lot of promotions in the Bob Trowbridge era that should have been a part of the NWA. There was a lot of shit, and I don't care what anyone says. There was some really good promotions out there, but there was a lot of just garbage, right? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Either one of you guys, you've been around as long as I have. There are promotions that should not have been a part of the NWA. Am I wrong?
No, and especially by the end of the Trowbridge era, almost none of the promoters promoted.
Yeah.
Almost none of them. By that time, they were all, licensing affiliates. And what were the two terms they had?
You were a member, you're an associate, or you were an affiliate.
Right.
And I think an associate paid dues and an affiliate was allowed in for free.
Thanks.
They were using the member's license to be able to promote, and often that's how the member was able to use their show quotas.
Right. Which, sadly was only 4. And so, yeah, it was the associates weren't too bad. Most of the affiliates were total crap. And yeah, certainly and I remember talking to Chris Ronquillo, and he said that the first year they basically took anybody who was doing it because they didn't know what they were going to have. And so you just basically accepted and you went to see and whatever. I mean, let's not go back and say that wasn't also happening beforehand. They were basically taking anybody who did. And so it was so funny to see how people went. So under Trowbridge, or the pre-Tharp era, at some point, membership to become a new member went from like $300 to $3,000. And so, because supposedly it was so that they could only get serious promoters. But of course, like I said, none of the promoters who joined actually promoted. And so then the next thing was, so with the Tharp, it went back down to $300. So Trowbridge Group was accused of trying to steal money marks funds, and Tharp was accused of, just getting any money he could get or whatever. And look, both of them were the same. And I don't even remember, did it? And Jaden, maybe did associates or affiliates, did they pay to the NWA associates?
No.
Or did they pay to the member?
The affiliates and the associates. The affiliates paid the member, and the associates were for promoting under the, technically, if you want to be at least from my association, technically, Dog was NWA New Jersey. Force One was NWA New Jersey. Coastal was NWA New Jersey, or whatever they were at the time. Everybody was NWA New Jersey presents Force One Pro Wrestling, and NWA New Jersey presents Dangerous Gen Wrestling Gladiators. Fred just wasn't very strict on that rule. The actual associates, they had, and again, this might be bullshit. It's just what I was explained is they had the right, if they promoted an area long enough, they had a right to buy into the NWA. That was the affiliates. I'm sorry, the affiliates. They had a right to buy into that territory in the NWA, while the associates were just using the NWA name. And
you might be right. I just remember at one point, like, the NWA had its members. The members were the ones that spent $3,000 to buy into the NWA. And then associates or affiliates were charged whatever the member of that area wanted to charge for them to be in that area. So, like, if Fred was just like, hey, I want Dr. Lawrence Zirconium to run this area, South Jersey, for us, he wouldn't even necessarily ask for payment, just, hey, we will work with you and you will represent the NWA in South Jersey, if that's what Fred wanted to do. Just like Dave Marquez, at one point, Dave wasn't running shows. He had been running the arena shows, and then they stopped doing the arena shows and started doing the Colors television show. And he wasn't promoting events locally, but he had a bunch of associates. And I don't think there was any charge to use his name at that time. They were just there was the Empire Wrestling Federation representing NWA Hollywood. There was Alternative Wrestling Show, again, representing NWA Hollywood, or SoCal Pro Wrestling representing NWA Hollywood. But I don't think any of those promotions were charged to be a part of Dave's NWA. I think he was the member of record, and they could use the NWA likeness with his permission.
Yeah, and it was, if I remember correctly, and I don't think this wasn't like a hard, fast rule, but like I remember, and again, I don't remember which affiliate and associate and what was what, but like the one that might pay a member a fee they typically use like an NWA promotional name. And like, in the Tennessee area or whatever, can't remember any of the names anymore. I think it was Mike Porter was like the member.
Yes.
And then he had an associate that ran under NWA something different. And I don't remember what was his name. He was the one that ended up going into the Hall of Fame. There was a lot of controversy about what his contributions were and everything. And so, Cicero? Oh. You remember?
Cersei.
Cersei. Yeah. And like, because he was even on the board, and what type of relationship he had on the board, or what his thing was on the board was, even members disagreed. Bill Burns made it sound like he was a full board thing. Dave Marquez said that he was never supposed to be a full member. He was just supposed to be somebody who, who could, speak for the associates or affiliates or whichever. And, and then the other group just typically would use their own promotional name, like Empire Wrestling or, whatever. And, they would have NWA matches. Like they didn't call their titles NWA titles. They didn't, they just more could be used to promote a show and they could feature normally that promoter's NWA titles. It was confusing.
So with that being said, then with the new territories, kind of going back to what we were talking about, I don't blame Billy and Dave Lagana from distancing themselves from the concept of having a territory system, because what was presented to them at the time was a mostly broken system with members who probably should licenses who probably never should have been a part of the NWA. And I think Billy had some pretty wild aspirations right out the door. I don't know how much of that 20-year plan is still in play, but I think he had some pretty wild aspirations to be much further along than they are currently. Also, I think the idea of this territory system, the modern territory system, like I know that I've spoken to a few people within the industry and they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. It didn't work before. It's not going to work now. But for everything that we've said on this show already, there is a little bit more buzz for those promoters to have these NWA shows. It also makes that NWA name more valuable in those areas. In St. Louis now, there's a regular NWA product. In Chicago, Highland Park, there's an NWA product. In Eastern Tennessee, in Cedarville, there's an NWA product. And eventually there will be an NWA product in the greater, Dallas area of Forney, Texas. There is an NWA branded show happening mostly every month in these areas. And I think that helps with visibility. It helps with brand recognition. And at the end of the day, like, yes, it's Texas style of wrestling, but it's the NWA. It's World League Wrestling, but it's the NWA.
Well, and also this is a different structure than previous setups. Under Thorpe, there may have been an NWA that licensed the name.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really an NWA promotion. Now, the way they wrote their license agreements, it sounded like there was, but there wasn't. There wasn't an NWA promotion that was running shows in different places. And so the next thing then becomes this time there is a main National Wrestling Alliance promotion that is running shows in somewhat traveling, and the territories are to feed and add to that promotion. And so there's a different structure here, which gives the territories a chance to a chance to get noticed above your small local area and gives the NWA a chance to cultivate new talent, because the NWA always has the risk that top talent's going to disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, Camille's gone, Latimer's gone.
No, Latimer's still around.
No, not Latimer. Aldous, sorry. Aldous is gone. Camille's gone. What's LA Knight is gone. Colt Cabana's gone. He was a big part of thing.
Willie Mack.
Willie Mack is gone. Willie Mack is gone. I keep hearing this voice whispering to me. Anyway, but the point is, people come and go. It's good for people to come and go. I think we would be pretty sad and bored if all the original NWA people from 7 years ago were still there and battling over the same titles. And so, change is good. But now they got a place to where they can, hopefully build people and integrate them in and do something with. Not that the NWA has ever, or I shouldn't say the NWA, not that Billy has ever done a really good job of building up his own.
Okay, we both lost now DK now.
Nope, that was me accidentally punching a button. So, anyhow, that being neither here nor there. Thunder Rosa, Eddie Kingston, Ricky Stark, Jeps, all of them. Just,
if you could have one of them back.
Who was the biggest loss? I'm sorry.
We were just saying the same thing. I think the biggest loss, is Eli Drake. LA Knight.
I think it's not the biggest loss. I think it was the biggest lost opportunity. He wasn't a big star yet, but he had the opportunity to be so.
I don't know, man. He was a TNA world champion at a pretty, pivotal time for that company.
Yeah, and he also could have been in part of the with a bag of chips. With 50 cents, I could have got him a bag of chips. Could have been part of the what's the damn thing when they send you away because you're a criminal and you're trying to hide you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Witness protection.
Witness protection program. Yeah, he could have been a part of witness protection program being TNA champion back then.
Noop. Okay, so Noop says Nick Aldis and Camille. You can't count them as one. It's one or the other. And I don't know that. Look, Nick Aldis was great as world's heavyweight champion the first time around. By the second time, I felt like he was mailing it in. And I don't know that Nick Aldis. Look, Nick Aldis isn't even a bigger star than Eli Drake is. LA Knight is in the WWE. They're using Nick Aldis as a mouthpiece for he's the boss. He's not even wrestling anymore. So I don't know that you could say that Nick Aldis was a huge loss. And as of the moment right now, Camille is finally getting some traction in AEW, but we haven't seen the best yet out of Camille in AEW. Thunder Rosa, you could say.
She lost to Chris Statlander. I'm sad.
Oh, she did. I didn't know that match already happened. You could say Thunder Rosa, right? Because she had a fantastic run as AEW Women's World Champion. She's dropped a lot since then, but she had a fantastic run. Ricky Starks made some noise. He was a tag team champion and an FTW champion, whatever that means. But I feel like that's also faded out too. Really, currently the only wrestler that came from the NWA that's still a champion, and it's a secondary title, but it's LA Knight.
Yeah, but again, you're talking LA Knight to Eli Drake then. LA Knight's a huge star right now in the WWE because they took the opportunity and they took what he had and are making the most out of it. So any of them could have been Aldis, Camille, Starks, Ricky, what's his name? Any of them. Eddie Kingston, yeah. Eddie Kingston all could have been big stars with somebody who knew how to capitalize on their abilities.
Well, keep in mind too, Eli Drake, before he was LA Knight, he was Eli Drake. Before he was Eli Drake, he was in the NXT farm system as Slate Randall and didn't get a single televised match while he was there. Look, he put in the work to build himself up. But he wasn't a hit the first time he went through the farm system. He wasn't even a hit the second time he went through the farm system. It didn't really click until after his run in the NWA. So I don't know if everything just fell into place, if the WWE creative finally figured it out, the right formula, but I
think the right person in charge is the difference.
Sure, Vince was still in charge when when Eli Drake came back.
He had it was this TNA run, probably as Eli Drake. When he first went into the WWE farm system, he didn't have a good reputation.
No, it was terrible.
And I think one of the problems they had was that, my word, I'm not quoting anybody here, but that he was kind of lazy or didn't work as hard as they thought they should.
What I heard about him is he couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my next thing. Also, but my thing was that they could have worked with him over his training habits, but then he was also an ass. Well, and when you're an ass, they don't want to work with you.
Do you guys remember Heartland Wrestling Association?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, that was the promotion where John Moxley got his, basically where he got discovered by the WWE. That's where Chad Collier came from. That's where who else? Matt Stryker spent a lot of time. Cody Hawk, but that's also where LA Knight got his start, and he was actually appearing on matches with the WWE as a roster member of the Heartland Wrestling Alliance, and even got to compete on ECW under his real name, Sean Ricker. Again, that was the developmental, right, Jaden? Then he didn't connect with the WWE. He came to California, started training with some of the promotions associated with Dave Marquez.
Was that Les Stepper's group?
Originally, yes. For a long time, yes.
In 2013, Slate Randall came into NXT. That's 2013. And then by 2014, he was gone from NXT. Then he started working again with TNA under the name Sean Ricker, and then later Eli Drake. And he spent some time in TNA. I'm just trying to go back to where he was, because I think he had another spot in WWE for a while and then got let go again. Maybe I'm incorrect.
You could always say the same thing about EC3.
Yeah, absolutely you can. Okay, maybe I was wrong about a second stint with the WWE, but he was with Impact Wrestling. And then, that after that dried up, he came to TNA, or excuse me, he came to NWA, and he was in NWA for a while. And then he landed in NXT. He was there for about a year. And then he made his, actually almost 2 years before he made his main event roster debut.
Yeah, and his main event roster debut was not under Triple H, even though Triple H might have had some power.
Yeah, that was in 2023. So Trips was around, but he wasn't in charge. And remember, at the NXT 2.0, LA Knight was still a part of that NXT 2.0, and that was a Vince McMahon creation.
Abortion, more like it, but yes. But anyway, I think the potential was there for all of them to be bigger stars. And with somebody, you just need somebody to be able to capitalize on that potential. And, potential is great, but then not everybody hits their ceiling, or even surpasses their ceiling. So, but there was a lot of potential in the stars of the NWA. I think the biggest loss was somebody. That's hard because, again, Eli Drake was great, and he should have been world champion, and he had all the right tools and everything like that. I think the biggest loss was one that is not being used at all right now, and that's James Storm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
James Storm was, in my opinion, what the NWA at that time should have been, and I think a program with him versus Trevor Murdoch could have lit up, and then maybe later versus Thrillbilly could have lit up the NWA if done properly. Okay.
I kind of agree with you, and I feel like if if James Storm was here now in the NWA, I feel like he would automatically be like one of your top contenders for the 10 pounds of gold and a legitimate competition for EC3 and for Tom Latimer. Absolutely.
Well, I am going to go a different direction.
Let's go.
Because I think that the NWA kind of fumbled this guy. That's what they did. And I think he was fumbled by the next promotion. And I'm going to say Ricky Starks. Because he was pretty small when he first started. And I remember him here in Texas, and he was really small here. And, but I thought he had potential and would probably bulk up some over time. And I think he has, even though we haven't seen him forever. But, you know, they put the TV title on him for what in the real world was 2 days. And then of all people, put it on Sicky Dice. All you people out there who love Sicky Dice, you need deep, dark psychological help. And I mean that with the most non-love that I can possibly.
Not even like helpful help, but dark help. Like you need to be put in a basement or something. Locked away.
Yes, exactly. And so
a sex dungeon or something.
What the fuck?
I was trying to go dark. That's the darkest thing that came to mind for some reason.
Cumulatively. And
yes.
So anyway, I think in Ricky Stark they had somebody that could have been like Thrill Billy. Somebody who could have, you know, had the right match that showcased him. I mean, come on, he beat Trevor Murdoch, didn't he, for the TV titles? And wasn't that the final? Or did he beat him on the way?
I think he beat him on the way.
Yeah, well, however, he beat Trevor Murdoch. And I think that this is a guy that they could have built and developed and pushed to the top over time. And, you know, then the pandemic happened, but I don't think they would have done it anyway.
No, you're right. You were right, by the way. He did defeat Trevor Murdoch to become TV champion. That was the finals.
Okay. Maybe it was Sicky he defeated along the way. I don't remember. But the point is they never should have put the title on Sicky. And it's just one of those. They had a chance there. With LA Knight, they were stupid. That should have been the feud. And supposedly that was going to be the feud. But they kept outsmarting themselves. Oh, no, we want to wait. Oh, we want to. Oh, we need to team with ROH, so we're going to put the title on Marty Scurll. You know, nobody gave a real rat's. You know, put them in there with LA Knight. If they had run the type of program that they did with Trevor Murdoch and all this, but at the very beginning, LA Knight and all this, just think where they could have gone. And this was when people had Billy more under control and he was more, you know, big guy and not calling every individual shot. You know, he had people that could rein him in. And so that could have been amazing. But with Starks, they had somebody that could have been the future. And I think they just did it. And I think AEW fumbled him as well.
Well, you know, I feel like number one, remember Aldis was very high on Ricky Starks. He would always tell him, like, that's the draft pick, number one draft pick. That's your 5-tool player, which was like, you know, praise from Caesar at the time. And then when he got to AEW, I mean, it was kind of, I don't know why people got this, but he was always said to be a Cody guy. He's a Cody guy. And as soon as Cody left, they still started pushing him, and I mean, he did win the tag titles. Him and Big Bill had a pretty decent run as tag champs, and ended up dropping the titles to Sting and Darby Allin, who were like the biggest stars on that show, and we haven't seen Ricky Starks pretty much ever since.
Here's the problem. I think the NWA started right away is they made Ricky Starks a babyface, and then he came out and did a heel promo.
Yeah,
he was miscast and misused, and I agree that he's a missed opportunity. I wasn't as high of him as to be a future world champion, but I could definitely see him being national television and junior heavyweight and a tag team champion. I think his size would have limited him as a world title because he didn't have the special qualities like a Rey Mysterio might have had. But he definitely had charisma. He definitely had personality. He definitely had talent. And he had a high ceiling that it could have been exploited if they knew how to do so.
And I'm not saying they should have put the world title on him 2 years into the thing. People don't understand build and time. And, we live in a generation where we get everything immediately except for the election results from Arizona. And
they couldn't expect it. Can't even keep their damn hockey team.
Exactly. And so, it takes time to build this. Like, even people were talking about David Von Erich, can I let you in on a kayfabe lie that David Von Erich was not scheduled to win the world title at Parade of Champions. The only reason they got David Von Erich was not scheduled to win the world title at Parade of Champions. People always say, well, David Von Erich, he was going to be the next. He was already voted. He was already voted. He was going to win the world championship at. No, he wasn't. It was actually going to be a screw job finish. And Kerry got the title reign because David died, and basically all the world-class promoters said, you're doing this. You're going to put the title in Kerry for the show. And then he'll drop it in Japan. And so that's what got worked out. But David was being looked at as a future world champion, but David was 24 when he died. They were looking at grooming him over the next 4, 5, 8 years to be the world champion. And so it's one of those things. Like I said, I wasn't putting the world title on Ricky Starks 2 years in. I was looking at Ricky Starks being a top main event guy in really about this time. That he would probably be like a national champion now, and breaking into the main event scene at this point. And yeah, he is small, and I'm not the wildest fan of small guys, but I think as a heel, he had what it took to break in. I mean, let's remember, if you go back and you look at Tully Blanchard at 235 pounds when he weighed 195 pounds.
Sure.
And Gino wasn't much bigger either.
No.
Who?
Gino Hernandez.
Oh, no. Gino was, someone told me that Gino weighed 190.
Yeah,
And,
he was about the same weight. He was just slightly taller and slightly more lanky, but he was about the same weight as Tully at the time.
Jimmy Garvin weighed 205.
Yeah.
That's why I love hearing people today, because we're kind of used to some of those kayfabe weight. And people today, somebody will go, so-and-so is not a junior heavyweight. What, you think they really weigh more than 225 pounds?
Yeah, but see, kayfabe and presentation made him feel bigger. That's what it was presentation. Oh, Boz and Slade should be really good.
It was really good. But it didn't feel like junior heavyweight wrestling, that's for sure.
Well, junior heavyweight wrestling is not cruiserweight wrestling, by the way.
I understand that, but you look at these guys, and I get that muscle is lean, but if you're kayfabing some of these guys as junior heavyweights at 205 or whatever, these guys don't look like they're much bigger than Alex Taylor. They're much bigger than Colby Carino. They're much bigger than Kerry Morton.
Well, they're they're 220. The weight limit's 225 pounds.
Sure.
And so that's where some of the problem lies in, is that when you got the smaller guys, and if you kayfabe their weight, Denny Brown was often advertised as 210 to 220 pounds. Denny Brown weighed 175 pounds.
Soaking wet with a pocket full of rocks.
Right. Kevin Douglas, when he was champion, he often talked about being like around 200 pounds. I think like when he first won the title, he was 170. And I saw him kind of at his biggest, and he weighed 205 pounds at his biggest, and that was after he retired. And so, yeah, just we kind of get caught up in these kayfabe weights, so I don't really like kayfabe weights. I mean, I understand Jim Cornette's thing. If you don't, everybody was over 200 pounds except for like Jerry Jarrett, so that he could be the bigger, biggest underdog or whatever. But, when they got guys that weigh 125 pounds and they're, billing them as 175 pounds and then putting their world heavyweight championship on them.
What was Tyrus's weight? I know they dropped at least 200 or 300 pounds off of him when he was champion.
I think it was 615 pounds.
Oh, so good. I think about 400 pounds under. He's right around Dave Dahl's weight.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so I actually didn't watch Power this week, and it looked interesting with just now because I just finally looked up to see what was going on. Did it meet its potential?
I think it was a really good show. I think this was on par with, surprisingly enough, I feel like this was on par with the 76th anniversary show, which I thought was mostly good. There was a few things that I could have done without, but for the most part, I felt like it was a really good show. And if DK is ready, we'll start talking about Power.
Well, let's talk about Power.
Right off the bat, you had some pretty interesting matches. The stories were kind of playing out from the 76th anniversary show, which I actually really dug. I was very happy that there was some consistency in the storytelling, and there was a natural flow from what we saw at the 76th anniversary show. The first match on the card, and this kind of, again, played up from the national championship match, was Brian Idol versus Carson Drake. Number one, I don't like either one of these guys.
I would say they were Jay's two favorite wrestlers. Neither knew what Bait Allen is.
Yeah. This match, but it was still a pretty decent match. Again, I'm not super into either one of these guys, and I feel like now we're starting to get Brian Idol in this babyface role, and I don't know how I feel about that. Up until recently, he was a heel. There's been no particular reason why that would have changed or why it should have changed. Just now he's a face. So there was no real story explaining that.
Well, Billy does that all the time.
Yeah, he just kind of taken on a face personality, which is weird because at Riot Fest, he was challenging against Tom Latimer in the championship match. He was also challenging Tom Latimer at the Sacred Heart in New York. I don't know what other matches he was involved in between the tapings and the 76th anniversary show, but apparently he's now become a babyface. And this matchup between these two, again, really didn't make sense it made sense in the fact that they were both in the same match. It didn't make sense because it was Burchill who eliminated Idol, not Carson Drake. So there wasn't really a necessity to have these two fight other than, for a spot on the roster to get, title matches, victories and losses. But at least the storyline that was kind of there, that they had shared some ring time at the 76th anniversary show. Idol was the aggressor. He wrestled as a babyface in this match. The finish basically came when Carson Drake got very frustrated and released his wrestling tape where the referee got distracted by that, admonished him, took the tape to throw it out of the ring. And while he was doing that, Carson Drake went low into the tights, pulled out the brass knucks, got the victory. So it was a very old school heelish way to win. It was a decent match. Again, nothing that I don't love either one of these guys. I thought it was just okay. But I'm interested to hear what DK said about this one.
For me, this was a classic example of good for what it was. Wasn't expecting a lot. I don't dislike Idol as much as you do. I do dislike Drake as much as you. Idol is now kind of with its behind the scenes role, filling a utility thing, go where I'm needed for the moment, which is probably good. And if he has a big backstage role, he shouldn't really be contending for any of the major titles. Everything being said, like you said, the heel cheated. He got the victory, screwed over the babyface, who was more babyface because he was against the heel than because he's actually babyface. I mean, but then again, Odison went babyface, heel, babyface without ever having a turn any of the times. Just who he was wrestling. If he was wrestling somebody that was popular, he was a heel. And if he was wrestling somebody that was not popular, he was the face. And Kratos was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
And so in that, all that garbage, just to say, it was fine for what it was.
Carson Drake reminds me of pre-goth JoJo Siwa.
Let's hear it. The artificialness.
It's just something about him. That's what he reminds me of, like the pre-goth Joe Siwa, which I'm really shocked I even know who that person is. But
I'm not.
You don't know JoJo?
No, I'm not surprised that Jaden knows who JoJo is.
Oh.
Yeah, I keep my finger on the pulse. Unfortunately, I'm told that I had to get a restraining order against me after that. But I don't know. It's just I don't dislike Brian Idol. I just don't think he is used to make me care about him. I just don't like. I don't want to see Carson Drake. And why isn't Brian Idol managed by Austin Idol?
That's the storyline that should be that. I'm trying that again. Wow.
Because we want
you have a stroke there, Jay?
Oh, man. Anyone else taste copper?
Yeah.
That's the storyline they should have gone with. It's like, no, this whole time, your son wasn't Zion or Scion. Your son was Brian Idol right here. He's a heartthrob.
It was Brian Idol all along. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, a quick interruption. For those of you who haven't already, push the like button. Don't make me come back and say it again.
I can't because I don't have Wi-Fi because my power's still out.
I don't see how this is my fault.
Well, I just can't hit the like button. And because I'm using this app, not that app.
What's kind of interesting about that is my power almost went out last night because of the wildfires that we tend to get here in Southern California.
Tommy Rich was there?
Shit. When it gets real windy, the power company will text us and say, hey, we're going to shut your power off. Thankfully, they didn't, but they were going to turn our power off last night. So we scrambled to get ready, but, you're never really fully prepared. Tyrus is rumored to be closing in on John Minnock's record of 1,400 pounds.
It's true. You never could be ready for Tommy Rich. Just like who are you to doubt Al Dandy?
I'd never doubted El Dandy. The other question in the chat from our pal Christopher Henry,
I know you're Dandy,
who is joining the show live for the first time. Welcome, Chris. Natalia, in a recent tweet, referred to FTW as an NWA Florida territory. Was that a slip? Have I heard anything? So at one point, they had announced that FTW was going to become a territory of the NWA. They even went as far to have Billy Corgan show up at one of their events and say that, hey, we'll welcome you into a territory, but Brian Idol cannot hold the FTW championship, and FTW joined the NWA. Essentially, they were blending kayfabe with real life and everything else, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Keep in mind that NWA Chicago, although Billy owns the NWA, he also particularly owns that territory, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But Brian Idol is the person responsible for booking and promoting those shows in Highland Park. So, in essence, yes, FTW is essentially an NWA territory. And this is kind of where I feel like, they're not officially recognized as a territory, but they have worked with the NWA in the past. I believe when the NWA is in Florida, they do business together. And like I said, Markova and Idol are both, basically in charge of FTW. So it's essentially a territory without the label. And I think that's the best I could say to that.
So what was the next match?
Well, the next match, and I guess we'll talk about more of this later when DK comes back, but the next match on the card was actually a very, very fun match. Boz versus Slade. And I'm telling you, man, you pointed it out a long time ago that Slade is a beast in the ring. He's fantastic. We saw glimpses of this through the what were they called? What was that tag team called?
I think you mean the Spectaculars, but I call them the Barely Adequates.
The Barely Adequates. It was okay, right? Like the Rush Freeman's a good guy. Maybe not so good in the ring, but he seems like a nice guy. I don't think him and Alex Taylor made for a good pairing. And then when the whole thing just kind of blew up. Whatever. Let's get back to what's important here. Spencer Slade is phenomenal in the ring, and I feel like was being wasted as part of Spectaculars. I don't mind that Rolando is his manager as long as that's the role that he stays in. I definitely don't want to see any more shenanigans with Eric Smalls and Spencer Slade. I don't want to see Spencer Slade being the bodyguard for Rolando. I want to see Spencer Slade wrestle people. And this is what we got with this match. Spencer Slade and Boz put on a pretty good exhibition match. They called it a junior heavyweight title match on X, but they didn't really refer to it as a junior heavyweight match on the actual program itself. And Boz looked great. And Slade looked great. There was a lot of really good wrestling. I know, Jaden, that you don't particularly enjoy the NWA, and I know particularly you won't watch the NWA, but this is a matchup I really think that you would enjoy and might even change your mind on some of the thoughts that you currently have on the National Wrestling Alliance.
Well, actually, I'm a fan of both wrestlers, so that it wouldn't shock me. I am a fan of both wrestlers. I've talked to the accolades or the allocades, if you want to go Lex Luger style, about both wrestlers. I think Rolando as a manager has his shortcomings, but I definitely think that was a match that if I could find it where the NWA wouldn't get credit for me watching it, I would probably find a way to watch it.
Now, Boz, for those who don't know, Boz is 50 years old. He's not a young guy.
No, he's been around for a while.
And he's been part of, like, he was at the 76th anniversary show. He teamed with Mario Pardua in that matchup against Foxy Viner and Tim Theory. He's been on Power, and let me try that again. He's been on Power as he wrestled Tom Latimer for the national title at Back to the Territories. He's done a lot of the NWA Chicago events. In fact, he's kind of a mainstay there, where he's wrestled Daisy Kill. He's wrestled Charlie Adams. And he competes regularly in some of the promotions in Chicago. But it looks like he's going to be more of a regular now for the NWA, which I think is a good move. Very solid in the ring. And for somebody who's 50 years old, not a bad 50, that's for sure. And Slade looked great, man. I can't say enough about Spencer Slade. And if the idea is that these guys are your junior heavyweights, then man, I can't wait to see them get into the ring with either Jack Cartwheel or Alex Taylor, whoever is the world junior heavyweight champion after Saul win, because I think Slade is a beast, and I can't wait to see more of him. Now, DK, you're still muted, but I have to ask, you watched this match. What did you think about it?
Well, I was very happy because I felt for the first time we were seeing what Slade could actually do.
Yes.
Even if it was not 100% what he's capable of.
No, not even close, probably.
But it was certainly a lot better than the hopefully, since this is the whole thing, we won't get demonetized. But the effing shit that we've been having to deal with.
I like how you say effing shit.
Well, and the reason I do that is because I've heard that fuck is worse than shit, and that you're more likely to get noticed and demonetized if you say that. But since it seemed to bother you, anyway, yeah, to the match itself, I like Boz, I like Slade, I like the match. This is the type of junior heavyweight stuff I like, so I was happy.
By the way, DK, I think I sent you some good amateur wrestling stuff recently, so make sure you check it out.
And again, I understand the difference between junior heavyweight and cruiserweight wrestling. Not every junior heavyweight's a high flyer. And I think, when I think of some of the best junior heavyweights in recent memory, like one of the names that always pops up is Dean Malenko. And Dean Malenko was far from a cruiserweight. I think you could have great wrestling and be junior heavyweights. But these guys just, again, when I look at them through my kayfabe lenses, they don't look like junior heavyweights. That's just my take on it. Next up, we had a very interesting dynamic, an interesting tag team, which I'm sure is going to have implications for the women's division down the road. And that is the tag team match between Hollywood Haley J and Tiffany Nieves versus Pretty Empowered, the Kenzie sisters. Now, if you were watching the 76th anniversary shows during the Burke Invitational, you saw Hollywood Haley J and Tiffany Nieves have some exchanges in that match. We saw them do a lot of back and forth, and in fact, those two have had a lot of matches dating back to their time in Ohio Valley against one another. But I think the thing is clear that both of those ladies want to be the next women's world champion, and that was made evident in this matchup. And so it kind of felt like maybe they were teaming to say, like, hey, our opportunities to get a shot at the women's world championship are much greater if we work together as opposed to going it solo. And how Billy books things, a win against the women's world champion could lead to something later down the road for them. This was another really fun matchup. I don't feel like this was the Kenzie Page we normally get. Even her style of wrestling down to her hair in a ponytail, it wasn't the Kenzie that we've kind of become enamored with over the last year. The one that took Camille to her limit at the 75th anniversary show, the woman that beat Maxine Paler at the 76th anniversary show. This was a kind of a more reserved Kenzie, and we saw a lot more fire coming out of Kylie. And I was really, I said it on the pre-party, and I don't, I wasn't trying to be Nostradamus, but I said, to me, the best women's wrestler in the NWA is Kylie Page. And I think, where she's at now and where she has potential to be, there's nobody better. And she really kind of personified that in this matchup. I felt like she was kicking ass, and it was fun to watch Kylie rough it up in there. Ultimately, it was a distracted referee and a schoolgirl with tights pulled that gave Hollywood Haley J the victory over Kenzie Page. And that was a big upset as far as I'm concerned, because, of course, Pretty Empowered, both those women are former tag team champions. And, of course, getting a victory over the women's world champion is a big, big deal. So, DK, what was your thought on this matchup?
I enjoyed it. I thought the Page sisters becoming faces.
Yes.
And they're working face in the territory, especially their own, but even like Joe Casana and some of the others, and it's, you know, bled over into this. And don't know that I like it that much. I think they work better as heels. I mean, I'm not saying they can't be faces, but I think part of what helped get them over was that snotty, bratty, you know, mean girl thing. And so, you know, like you were saying, they both had their hair in ponytails. Kenzie was getting beat up in the corner, you know, just it didn't seem right to me for them to be in that role. But taking that out and just watching the match, I certainly thought that, you know, the match was good. And I've said, I think Kylie's kind of going to Serena Williams, her sister.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what I mean by that, go study the Venus and Serena Williams in tennis. And that's taking nothing away from Kenzie, who honestly, whenever her contract runs out, I would be interested to see if NXT would have interest in her. Chelsea Green talks very, very positively about her.
Who does?
Chelsea Green.
What was her name again?
Chelsea Green.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it the way you want me to.
I was really hoping you would. I would have clipped that.
Chelsea Green. Anyway, I don't know.
Please clip that. That should be on the the introduction from now on. But no, seriously though, all four are very talented. I really want somebody to just yank Kenzie's nose ring out. I'm sorry, it just drives me nuts. See, made the whole world shake with my statement. You have another quake there in California?
Tires just did a swanton.
Yeah, I could tell the whole room moved. But there's a lot of talent in that match. I think they capitalized on Haley J. Well, you know, they waited too long to use her and capitalize on her.
Yeah.
But I am not a fan, but I can see why people like her. I don't hold it against anybody for being a fan of her. It's just my own personal something about it I don't like, but I can see the ability to make money off of her. Just because I don't like her doesn't mean I can't see the ability to make money.
Yeah.
And Nieves is very, very, very talented. So I think this match does have a lot to do with the future of the NWA women's division. And I think this is the only thing I want to know really though is how did the crowd react? Because again, the 76, the women had the least amount of reaction.
I feel like the team. I felt like DK said that the fans reacted to Kenzie and Kylie more in a babyface role, which I think is kind of an anomaly because up until this point they were both very much heels. But like, you know, at the return to the territories, who did they fight? They fought the It Girls, you know, Ella and Samantha Starr, and that show they should have been heels as well. It should have been a heel versus heel. But ever since then, Kenzie's kind of been pushed as a babyface, and by proxy, so has Kylie. At the you were right, Jaden, that at the 76th anniversary show, the women didn't get a great reaction, but Kylie was certainly over with that fan base. There was no doubt about that. And so when they got to Tampa, that momentum carried for the Henry sisters, the Page sisters. Do they call them Henry sisters in the NWA, or do they call them the Page sisters? Because Kenzie Page, that's her middle name, is Kenzie Page Henry, and it's Kylie Alexa Henry, not Kylie Page. So this is kind of funny. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, they took the Page name. Hey, Kylie took the Page name from Kenzie.
Yeah,
because that's because they were recognizing them as sisters, and that's how they were handling it. What do you think about the tease tension at the end
between the sisters?
Yeah,
I didn't take it as a tease tension between the sisters. I took it as Kenzie was pissed that the referee missed the tights being pulled, and then shortly right after that, Holly hit Haley J through the fur coat into the ring, and it landed on Kenzie. I might have saw it differently from you, but I didn't see it as.
It was more like at the end, because at the end, Kenzie was just kind of looking at Kylie, like, what the F?
I think it was more like, I'm frustrated that the referee botched this call. You know, I don't think it was like, hey, why didn't you have my back? It was more like, what the hell just happened with this referee?
Well, maybe I'm over reading into it, but it's just, I thought to me that they might be trying to tease something there.
I mean, they might be.
What, you mean Billy break up a tag team?
Never.
He's never been known to do that. Could you imagine?
Now, what's the important question here?
What do you mean?
Who's going to what was Markova number one contender, and now Hollywood getting a shot, and Nieves still being in there, and maybe even Kylie. Like, who's going to be the next champion? Who gets the shot? Who gets the? Why isn't everybody facing Kenzie? Who is the number one contender?
Yeah, well, the fact that there is a number one contender who now seems to be nowhere near the champion storyline.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. At Saul Win, Tiffany Nieves challenges Kenzie Page for that title, and I was saying after the 76th anniversary show, because there was so much the main event, not the main event, the Burke Invitational kind of boiled down to Markova and Nieves. I thought that would be the feud going into Saul Win to determine the number one contender. Maybe not determine the number one contender, but another obstacle in the way of Markova, because I really feel like Markova is going to get her shot at the Looks That Kill pay-per-view. So I feel like that's where Markova is really going to get her shot and probably win the title. But at Saul Win, Tiffany Nieves gets the match against Kenzie Page. So leading up to this on Twitter, Markova and Nieves were arguing about the Burke Invitational, and Nieves even said something like, "I'm going to set you on fire the next time we square off." And then Joe Galli even mentioned, "Hey, don't do that at the Tampa TV tapings," or something like that. And then they just completely ignored it. That didn't happen at all. So I don't really know what's going on with that storyline. I don't understand where they're moving forward with that. But apparently, Markova is, at least in the interim, kind of ushered out of the picture, which, again, I think that's going to be because the next event is going to be the Looks That Kill pay-per-view, which that's the next main event. And I do believe that it's going to be Markova versus whomever the world champion is at that time.
Whose looks are killing, by the way?
Well, of course, it's Brian Idol's. Look at that. Look at that.
I'm scared, Mommy.
That's a hunky piece of man meat right there. Don't all get silent on me to make it weird. Then after that, we had the Max the Impaler versus Mr. Grimm's match.
No.
What, Tom Latimer promo?
No.
What?
Come on, you're missing the biggest thing that happened in the show.
Tell me.
Carl Davis?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I tried to block that out of my memory because, again, we've talked about this in the past. I don't want to see wrestlers and commentators or announcers get into it. I don't want anyone challenging Billy Corgan to a match. But this is during this segment, during this promo, it seemed to be more about Alex Taylor denouncing his next challenger, which would be Jack Cartwheel. And then Kyle kind of he might have said some things that would have riled me up too, mentioning that as of right now, neither Kerry nor Silas are in title contention, and it really riled up Silas Mason. And even though Silas Mason grabbed him by the shirt collar and said that he's not going to beat him down here where he stands, that didn't stop Kerry Morton for doing it. Colby came out to make the save, and he got beat up by the threesome, which is setting up a match for next week's Power, which will apparently be, I'm guessing, Colby Carino and Kyle Davis taking on the team of Silas Mason, and I'm assuming Kerry Morton. They just said against the Southern Six, so it might even be a 2-on-3 match. But this is the kind of shit that I don't need. There is not enough TV time to accurately give everybody on camera matches. We haven't seen Burchill since the 76, but he's a talent that I would like to see more of. We haven't seen, a lot of guys that I think would have been better suited for TV time. They brought in Mike Mondo. They brought in Carlito's brothers or cousins. I'm not sure what they are.
One of each.
The Colognes, they brought those guys in. Why aren't we seeing these dudes have matches that could further some storyline? This seems very inappropriate. Not that it's like wildly inappropriate, but just a waste of time. Kyle Davis, yes, he did wrestle. He wasn't a very good wrestler. Dave Marquez used him as a commentator on NWA Liberty States and Ring of Honor. He ended up working behind the scenes. And in the NWA, he's been a broadcast announcer. Putting him in this role, I just don't feel like is the best position for him. And honestly, I have no desire to see it.
Guess neither of us do either.
DK, you're muted. No,
yeah, I mean, that sums it up. Unless, who remembers Teddy Long?
I do. I remember Teddy Long. Playa.
When he was a referee that turned heel.
Yeah.
And then became a manager. And then became a general manager of different brands in WWE. And I think he went back to refereeing at some point in between all that crap. There was the Danny Davis, not to be confused with the Ohio Valley Danny Davis. There was Danny Davis in WWF.
That was the worst.
That was a referee.
Great.
Was a referee that
he also wrestled, by the way, at the same exact time. He was Mr. X.
Yeah. And so so they did a storyline with him where he was fired as a referee and he was turned into a jobber, basically. I mean, I think he won his first couple of matches and nobody cared and everybody lost interest, and he did. And then they end up again rehiring and reinstating him as a referee, but now he was an honest referee again. So nobody knows why he went heel. Nobody knows why he went straight and everything. And it's just like, I mean, and Jaden, do you remember, did Teddy Long referee again at the end in WCW?
I don't think he did in WCW, because he was more used as like an ambassador and stuff like that. He was a manager of all the jobbers for a while, or not jobbers, the lower tier wrestlers, because they were definitely a step above the enhancement, but they were not the main push guys. I think he did ref for the WWF for a while, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am, but I do think he did ref again. I do know he definitely made a lot of people go one-on-one with The Undertaker a lot, Playa. Or set up a tag team match, Playa.
Yeah. And so it was...
Holla, holla.
Unless you're planning on getting Kyle Davis out and into a managing role. But I feel like Carneyland, the Rush Freeman letter, the way he kind of poked at the Southern Six here, I feel like there have been plans in the works to get Kyle out of the ring announcing position and into something else, into wrestling managing something. I don't know. It's whatever. I'm not looking forward to it.
I don't know if any of you guys remember watching NWA on Power and then other parts of the Savoldi library, but there was a Tommy Savoldi who was a real life Mo Sidlak. And
sorry, that's fitting. Go ahead.
he always tried to be the toughest guy, whether he was refereeing or announcing or whatever. And I've taken shits bigger than that guy. And he's a very nice guy, but God, he always acted like he was the toughest person in the entire world. And I liked him as a person. He was really nice, but I really just wanted to watch somebody drill him just into the ground. And I get nothing against Kyler Durden, but Kyle Davis, but I don't care. Next.
I'm answering our friend Sam Retro in the chat. Dave Marquez, under the NWA Pro Wrestling banner, started promoting on the East Coast. He was working with Ricky Otazu. They started NWA Pro Wrestling East, which became NWA Liberty States. And then eventually NWA Liberty States became NWA On Fire with the Savoldi. So it all kind of ties together. That's where we saw a lot of Tommy Savoldi. Every time a heel was being interviewed, Kevin Douglas, the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, was on their programming defending against, I think it was Sebastian Cruz. I think that might have even been a dog show.
No, it was a dog event.
It was a dog event. Excuse me.
But you still haven't learned after all these years.
It's been a week, guys. Cut me some slack, okay?
You need to drink some more Dubby. Go ahead. Okay. But yeah, it's Tommy Savoldi definitely challenged Kevin Douglas, and I wish Kevin Douglas would have nailed him.
Just would have hauled off and socked him. That'd have been funny. All right. So then that takes us to the next match, which was the television title match between Max the Impaler and Mr. Grimm. Mr. Grimm we saw kind of step in as the de facto partner to Smalls with Spencer Slade and Rolando at the 76th anniversary show. Billy said on commentary that he liked Mr. Grimm because of his athleticism. And the guy is quick. He moved around the ring pretty quickly for a big guy. And it's one of the few times where you've put a competitor in the ring against Max the Impaler. And this person is very much bigger, very much stronger, and in this case, faster than Max the Impaler. And it kind of shows you the real difference between an enhancement talent who has little to no work in the NWA, is maybe second appearance in the NWA, and have a pretty decent match against Max the Impaler, and then against, Magic Jake Dumas, who's been a regular for the NWA, and Max kind of beat him fair and square. And then also Max versus Mims, where again, Max beat Mims straight up and beat him in a rematch straight up. So this one was
it was a draw in the rematch.
Oh, excuse me. It was a draw.
The 6:05 time limit draw.
Yeah, okay, you're right. But needless to say, like, Mr. Grimm put on a really good showing. And, if Max had more matches like this as TV champion, I'd actually be more okay with Max as the men's TV champion. It's the inactivity of that title belt that I feel has been hurting the NWA quite a bit. And with this victory, Max now has 4 of the 7 victories needed to challenge for the 10 pounds of gold.
Yay. I haven't been impressed with Max much, honestly, from the little limited I've saw Max, but I've seen Mr. Grimm before. I believe he's from Maryland or maybe in that area. He's a talented guy, big guy, got size, got strength, got speed, got a little thickness to him, a little mass, and knows how to use it to his advantage. And I think Mr. Grimm is a good pickup for the NWA as somebody that's maybe is not an enhancement guy, but also not a main eventer, just somebody who can be there to win some and lose some.
There you go. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, DK?
Good way to kill Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Look. We know everybody knows how I feel about Max as champion. I don't think that this was beneficial to Mr. Grimm. I think that this is looking at it, and I don't think it gets Max over. I think it gets Grimm under. And so
that's pretty much the NWA booking philosophy, isn't it?
It's bullshit. Stop the bullshit. So, Jaden, whatever you were saying.
I said that's pretty much NWA's modus operandi, get people under.
The next match. Okay. Well, actually, there was a great Tom Latimer promo where he was channeling his inner Dusty and saying that, he didn't win this title. We won this title, and he couldn't have done it without the fans. It was a really good promo. Also, earlier in the night, too, there was a really good promo from EC3. It was a pre-recorded package where he was talking about, it's kind of funny because we've said this before on the show that the biggest problem that EC3 had as NWA World Heavyweight Champion was he didn't have a chief rival. He didn't have someone that was pushing him to that next level. He didn't have somebody that they could have a complimentary story about. Now, Tom was the closest thing that they had to that, but there was so much bullshit and dumb stuff that happened in between that they never really pushed that narrative. But now that EC3 lost the title, and he said, I didn't intentionally lose, but I sacrificed myself to make you a bigger star so that when I beat you, I will not just be the best world champion of the modern era. I'll be the best world champion of all time, and I will be bigger than the NWA. I will carry the NWA. I won't be the overman. I'll be the overlord. It was a really good promo, probably one of the best ones that EC3 has had. And I know that, he's very much into history, and he was comparing himself to, Alexander the Goat is what he called him, Napoleon, George Washington. I mean, he kind of went throughout history and talking about great leaders and how he was a great leader for the NWA. It was a pretty good promo, and I felt like it really kind of painted the narrative that he will be a better champion after he beats someone who he helped create. And I guess he's taking credit for Tom Latimer and his rise to prominence. DK, did you like the promo? Did you think it was decent? Did you hate it? What did you think?
I thought it was good. I didn't like it as much as you did because I kind of started falling asleep as he was listing out some of that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it was certainly one of the better promos he's given. Yeah. I will say that. I'm a little confused on these rematch clauses and how they work or don't work, And the NWA has, I prefer a rematch, and I prefer a rematch clause, and I prefer them to, fight again, most champions, stuff like that, except for the TV title, because that's a different situation.
Sure.
And, the NWA seems to do whatever they can to devalue their championships sometimes. I mean, and we talked about that when Trevor Murdoch was champion. Oh, Nick Aldis, he doesn't want to challenge for the title now. But when he does want to challenge for it, he'll win it just like that. And, Pope, yeah, he has his shot, but, he wants to let Trevor Murdoch have his time in the sun or whatever. And, Kerry Morton didn't want a rematch for the junior. Wow, that was some motorcycle.
No, it was a car.
I thought it was chili.
Oh, me too, but I was trying to be nice. But anyway, Kerry Morton didn't want a rematch. He was going to be a heavyweight. And I think Colby Carino did have another shot at the title. I don't remember. But, kind of the same thing. Now, all of a sudden, well, I want to be a heavyweight. It's like, Colby, you weigh 191 pounds. And that's
Minus 20.
What?
Minus 20.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's before you go use the restroom. And it's just, I don't know. That bothers me just in general. But getting back to the promo and the whole thing, it was a good promo. I wish they would do kind of more of this where, the former champion actually wants the title back. They did a little bit of it with Cardona, but they kind of overstretched that and killed that. But, yeah, give me a rivalry. Wrestling should have rivalry. Even amateur wrestling has rivalries.
Yes.
Every
legitimate sport has a rivalry. The Flyers and the Devils hate each other. The Cowboys and the Eagles hate each other. The Diamondbacks. Is there a Diamondbacks team? Who do they hate? The fans hate the Oakland A's.
The owner hates the Oakland A's.
Yeah. Everybody has rivalries in every sport.
All right. Well, let's. So the rivalry.
Billy Corgan hates tag team wrestling.
The rivalry is starting, and bass players. The rivalry is starting.
And bass players.
The rivalry, like we've seen it over 2025 or 2024, but I guess we're going to get into it in 2025, or maybe just at Saul win, whatever happens. But it really feels like they're pushing for that. And of course, Tom answers back with the best promo that Tom's probably cut since he's been in the NWA. And that's not saying a whole lot. I love Tom in the ring, but his promos are usually kind of lacking. This promo, he was channeling Dusty. It was okay. It was an okay promo. He is definitely 100% full-fledged babyface at this point. And then that brought us to the main event, which was, again, the show opened with a great promo from Aaron
Stevens.
Thank you. Jeez, I had a stroke again. And I'm not normally one of these guys that love Aaron Stevens promos. Like, I normally think they're just whatever. He kind of started doing a poem type thing, talking about the bell and just the intensity of it. And it didn't sound like it was something that was like he stole it from something else. It sounded like he was coming up with it either on the fly or had written it before, but it sounded really interesting. And it was kind of compelling leading up to the tag team match where, again, per the rules of the match at the 76th anniversary show, although Kratos had the stick in his hand and rang the bell twice, he technically never hit the bell for a third time, which was the reason why this match was signed, because they kind of said that match was null and void. There was no real victor because it didn't ring 3 times, which is a stupid reason. If you want to just do the match again, just do it again. But he tried to ring the bell. You bought a cheap ass bell, Billy. Buy a better bell next time. Needless to say, the match was pretty good. Not as good as the 76th anniversary show. It wasn't as good of a match. It was still solid. It was still fun. And ultimately, Kratos and Odinson won the match. The Immortals were victorious. And BFT takes another L, which again is strange because BFT gets a shot at the tag titles at Saul win. So again, storytelling will make it make sense, After the match, we get a Easter egg, if you will, where Daisy Kill and Talos stand there as Daisy Kill sings songs about the relationship between Kratos and Odinson being a little bit more than just friends. It was funny. It was kind of weird. Something you would expect from Daisy Kills. DK, what were your thoughts on the match? What were your thoughts on the little parody song afterwards? Did you watch the parody song afterwards?
I did. The match itself, they shouldn't have done it.
I agree.
It was fine, but you lose the magic of the first match.
Yes.
When you do a second one like this. And I mean, all they had to do to explain it away is tell the truth. Hey, he only rang the bell twice, but he tried for the third one. It broke. We're giving it to him. And then, let the heels whine and complain.
Yeah.
And I really wonder how much longer Blunt Force Trauma has as a team. And the next thing, so the match itself was okay. It wasn't bad. There's nothing I can really look at and go, oh, man, it just shouldn't have been done.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary. It wasn't needed. It didn't live up to the first one. And which was almost impossible. And they should have known that. So I kind of irritated that they did it. Now, if they had put them in just another match together or a different gimmick or something like that, bull ropes or chains or country whooping or whatever.
Sure. Anything.
That would have been different. And looking at it, I was glad that the Immortals won. I think they should be strong. I was glad. I'm not a fan of the tag team of Daisy Kill and Talos, but I was glad for the end thing. Now, I didn't really care for the little ditty.
I thought it was great.
Well, I mean, I chuckled.
We don't mention Diddy on the podcast right now, apparently.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yes, we're not sponsored by any kind of baby oil.
The little, I was fine with the little Puff Daddy. And it was, it wasn't my favorite thing. I didn't particularly listen real hard or whatever. But what it did is the first time that there's kind of a tag team storyline that's not really related to anything, where titles are concerned or whatever, just kind of two teams. The feud between the Immortals and Blunt Force Trauma started when Blunt Force Trauma was champions and needed to be finished. So now we got a story. See, this is what wrestling needs. This is what I've been very critical of Billy Corgan about. There's not stories in what he's telling, and when he does, they don't make sense. And so we talked about some of the things that didn't make sense, but I was glad to see this. And, like I said, if you got to criticize Billy for the bad things, you got to give him the credit on the good things. So I was glad to see something, especially since we know he hates tag team wrestling, that I was glad to see that they were doing something with two teams that are, the Immortals are over, and I think Daisy Kill is starting to get over. Talos still needs a little work. And so this can tell a story. This can be something if they do it right. So, I'm willing to give them a chance on that. Now, Jaden, do you have any thoughts? I know you didn't watch.
I think it's stupid that they redid the match. It's kind of like redoing your spot after you blow your spot in the middle of the match. Nobody knows it's blown unless you make a big deal about it. And once you make a big deal about it, it looks fake because you're trying to redo it. And I think that's what it was. It was just stupid. They should have done it. I agree. It should have been if it was going to be something, it should have been another match. And honestly, they should have had Blunt Force Trauma win this time.
Yeah, I mean, that would have
I was going to say that, and I forgot. I was going to say, if you're going to redo the match, then the other team should have won.
Actually, Roswell says that he thinks Talos is going to get snatched up by AEW or NXT soon. He was in the NXT farm system before getting into United Wrestling Network and later the NWA. And then Christopher Henry said, P. Diddy. Hey, Christopher Henry, you're not related to the Henry sisters, are you? This whole time I was talking about the Henry sisters. Are you related?
Oh, Henry.
Oh, Henry, that'd be funny.
Oh.
All right, well, that's going to do it, I think, for us tonight. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more stuff to talk about with the NWA, and you could do that, chat. You could join us live every night, every morning, every afternoon in our Discord server, because the chat never stops when you're in the Discord server. I know I get notifications at like 2 a.m.
Yeah. That's why I don't really let myself see the notifications, because otherwise I'd have to listen to people say things over and 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 over again. It's more often than when Claire used to give thumbs up.
The funny thing about it was when I would miss for 2 or 3 days, I wasn't surprised to see that there were 100 messages. Now I can miss for 2 or 3 hours and there'll be 100 messages. And I'm like, what the hell?
I try to spend some time in the Discord a couple times a day, but it's not. Kudos to everyone that's in there. I appreciate you guys being a part of that, and please join the Discord, add to the conversation, bring up some good points. Make sure you at DKM so he can see every point that you're making.
Please don't.
But
if
that's
you do, I'm going to start adding Jay and Jaden for everything. So,
hey, I didn't do this.
Well, you know who to blame, don't you?
And it wouldn't really matter because I don't get the alerts anyway. I just check it every once in a while and realize there's too much.
When you get in, you'll suddenly see like 50 little red things going.
One thing I did say on the Discord, though, is I wanted to see how you guys ranked the NWA territory. So if you can find that post, I'm curious on how you guys ranked everybody ranked the NWA territories. Ooh, food ready for Jay.
No, I heard footsteps and I thought someone was coming in, but they did not. So,
Oh.
Anyways, let's wrap this. Yeah, let's wrap this show up. Again, thanks everyone for watching us on this Thursday. I hope you enjoyed last week's Halloween episode, the interview with Shane Haste. We'll also be closed for Thanksgiving here in the United States. So November 28th.
And probably the week of Christmas.
Yeah, probably Christmas as well. November 28th, we will not be here, but I hope to have some sort of content to put in place, and hopefully we'll have.
Oh, man. I was hoping for Starcade.
Maybe we'll do Starcade. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe.
Share.
You can always actually leave a comment after the show that helps us with the algorithm. And then also on if you really enjoyed the show and you want to help support us financially, we do have merchandise for sale with merch links in the bio. Also, we're partnered with Dubby, that if you purchase Dubby energy products, you are help supporting the Alliance blog and the podcast, as well as a trophy smack. If you need a title belt for an employee award program, or maybe a fantasy sports trophy or championship title, Trophy Smack can help you out. And by purchasing from them, you're also helping to support this show. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next Thursday to do some more NWA talk. But until then, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media